Imagine a monument, a global icon, a structure so synonymous with its city that its very silhouette defines a nation. Now, imagine someone audacious enough to claim ownership of it, to present themselves as a government official, and to convince shrewd businessmen that they were secretly authorized to dismantle and sell this cherished landmark for scrap. This isn't a whimsical fantasy. This is the unbelievable true story of Victor Lustig, the man who didn't just sell the Eiffel Tower once, but twice, cementing his legend as one of history's most audacious and charming con artists. Prepare to enter the world of a master manipulator, where trust is a currency and reality is merely a suggestion. Born in Heist, Bohemia, in 1890, Victor Lustig's early life was far from ordinary. From a young age, he displayed an uncanny knack for languages, mastering at least 5 by adulthood, and an even greater talent for observation and persuasion. He was a student of human nature, a natural chameleon who could blend seamlessly into any environment, adopting the mannerisms and speech of high society or the underworld with equal ease. His early career was a whirlwind of petty scams, card sharping on transatlantic ocean liners, and orchestrating elaborate cons across Europe and America. He moved with the grace of a seasoned performer, charming his victims before expertly picking their pockets. Lustig wasn't just a thief, he was an artist of deception. He understood that the greatest cons weren't about brute force or intimidation, but about exploiting human desires, vulnerabilities, and, most importantly, vanity. He perfected his persona, well-dressed, impeccably groomed, always carrying himself with an air of sophisticated confidence. He would often introduce himself as a count or a baron, lending an instant credibility to his presence. His targets weren't desperate paupers, they were often wealthy, influential individuals, eager to believe in a lucrative opportunity, especially one presented by someone who seemed to move in their own elevated circles. By the early 1920s, Lustig had built an impressive, albeit illicit, reputation. He had traversed continents, leaving a trail of bamboozled marks and empty bank accounts in his wake. Yet, for all his successes, a grander stage beckoned. A challenge worthy of his unique talents. And that stage, perhaps ironically, was Paris, the city of lights, and home to one of the world's most recognizable structures. It was during a visit to the French capital in 1925 that Lustig stumbled upon an idea so audacious, so preposterous, it could only have been conceived by a genius or a madman. Reading a newspaper article discussing the ongoing maintenance costs of the Eiffel Tower and the public's divided opinions on its aesthetic value, a spark ignited in Lustig's devious mind. The article mentioned that the tower, originally built for the 1889 World's Fair, was beginning to show its age, requiring costly repairs and repainting. Some even suggested it might be more economically viable to tear it down. For most, this was mere speculation. For Lustig, it was a blueprint for an unparalleled scam. He understood the power of suggestion, the allure of an exclusive deal, and the inherent trust placed in government authority. If he could convincingly portray himself as an official, tasked with a top-secret, sensitive project, he could turn a national landmark into his personal cash cow. The target, Paris's most prominent scrap metal dealers. The bait, the Eiffel Tower itself. Lustig meticulously crafted his elaborate scheme. He forged official-looking stationery, complete with government seals, and printed business cards identifying him as Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. This seemingly mundane title carried significant authority, allowing him to operate under the radar of higher-profile ministries. He rented an elegant suite at one of Paris's most prestigious hotels, the Hôtel de Crillon, a setting that lent instant credibility to his fabricated persona. From this luxurious base, he dispatched invitations to 6 of the city's most prominent scrap metal dealers. The invitations were cryptic, hinting at a highly confidential government matter of considerable importance. When the dealers arrived, Lustig greeted them with an air of solemn urgency. He explained that due to insurmountable maintenance costs and political backlash, the city of Paris had made the difficult decision to dismantle the Eiffel Tower. However, he stressed, this information was to be kept strictly confidential to avoid public outcry until a firm plan was in place. He painted a picture of a national secret, a sensitive operation requiring discretion and speed. The dealers, flattered to be chosen for such a monumental, clandestine undertaking, listened intently. Lustig then led them to a private viewing of the Eiffel Tower, not to admire its beauty, but to allow them to assess the sheer volume of valuable scrap metal it contained. He spoke of the immense logistical challenge, the intricate details of disassembling the 7,300-ton iron structure, and the enormous profit potential for the successful bidder. After the tour, he invited them back to his suite for the bidding process. However, Lustig had no intention of conducting a fair auction. His real goal was to identify the most susceptible target. He observed them closely, noting their eagerness, their perceived honesty, and their willingness to play along with the secret. His chosen mark was André Poisson, a seemingly earnest and ambitious businessman eager to break into the Parisian elite. Poisson, perhaps overwhelmed by the secrecy and the magnitude of the deal, was convinced he was on the cusp of the greatest business coup of his career. After delivering his official terms, Lustig then, as if an afterthought, confided in Poisson that there was a small matter of a bribe or gratuity required to secure the contract. This wasn't just about securing the deal, it was a psychological trap. If Poisson paid the bribe, it proved his guilt and complicity, making him less likely to report the scam. It also confirmed his belief that he was part of an exclusive, clandestine operation. Poisson, fearing he would lose out on the lucrative opportunity, handed over a substantial sum, in addition to the supposed bid for the scrap metal. With the cash in hand, Lustig swiftly disappeared, boarding a train for Vienna with his ill-gotten gains. Poisson, too ashamed and embarrassed to admit he had been duped, remained silent, allowing Lustig to vanish without a trace. The Eiffel Tower stood untouched, its iron lattice gleaming in the Parisian sun, an ironic monument to the gullibility of man and the genius of a con artist. But Victor Lustig was not one to rest on his laurels, nor was he one to shy away from repeating a successful formula. After successfully selling the Eiffel Tower the first time and observing André Poisson's silence, Lustig realized a crucial truth: shame is a powerful accomplice. Poisson's embarrassment meant he wouldn't go to the police, effectively giving Lustig a green light for round two. Less than a month later, with a fresh set of forged documents and a renewed sense of bravado, Lustig returned to Paris. He repeated the entire charade, from the elegant hotel suite to the carefully selected group of scrap dealers, using the exact same script and tactics. This time, however, things didn't go as smoothly. Lustig successfully found another eager buyer, an honest scrap dealer named Daned. Daned, like Poisson, was convinced he was getting the deal of a lifetime and handed over a substantial sum. But unlike Poisson, Daned grew suspicious of the exchange. Perhaps it was a gut feeling, or perhaps the story felt just a little too familiar. He reported the scam to the police. By the time the authorities began their investigation, Lustig had once again vanished, but this time, his name was known, and he was officially a wanted man in France. Despite the near miss, Lustig's audacity remained undimmed. He left Paris, but his career of deception was far from over. He continued his globe-trotting cons, always refining his techniques. One of his most famous subsequent scams involved the Romanian money box. He would convince Marx that his specially constructed box could flawlessly duplicate currency. He would demonstrate by putting a genuine bill in one slot and, after a few hours, ostensibly retrieve a perfect replica from another. He'd sell the box for a hefty sum, promising a lifetime of untold riches, knowing full well it was an elaborate trick involving hidden compartments and preloaded bills. The buyer would only discover the deception days or weeks later, long after Lustig was gone. Perhaps his most audacious American escapade brought him into contact with none other than Al Capone. In 1930, Lustig managed to get a meeting with the notorious mob boss, promising to double Capone's money. Capone, intrigued, gave Lustig $50,000. Lustig simply put the money in a safe deposit box and waited 2 months. He then returned to Capone, admitted he couldn't double the money, and returned the full $50,000, apologizing profusely. Capone, surprisingly impressed by Lustig's honesty, or perhaps his sheer nerve, ended up giving him $5,000 for being an honest man. Lustig later admitted he never intended to defraud Capone, knowing the repercussions would be severe. His genius lay in understanding human psychology, even that of a ruthless gangster. Lustig's life on the run, however, eventually caught up with him. After years of evading authorities across multiple continents, he was finally arrested in 1935 in New York City, not for selling the Eiffel Tower, but for masterminding a large-scale counterfeiting operation, producing millions of dollars in fake bills. The law enforcement officials who finally brought him in were astounded by his intricate network and meticulous planning. He faced trial, was convicted, and sentenced to federal prison on Alcatraz Island. Victor Lustig passed away in Alcatraz in 1947, ironically from pneumonia, not a bullet or the gallows, taking with him a lifetime of secrets and untold schemes. But his legend, particularly the story of the Eiffel Tower, continues to captivate and bewilder. He wasn't just a criminal, he was a master psychologist, an illusionist who understood the human mind's capacity for self-deception and the seductive power of a seemingly exclusive opportunity. What makes Lustig's story resonate so profoundly? It's not just the sheer audacity of selling a national monument. It's the meticulous planning, the sophisticated charm, and the profound insight into human nature that allowed him to pull off such impossible feats. He understood that greed could blind even the shrewdest businessman, and that the desire for a secret advantage could override common sense. His 10 Commandments for Con Men, a set of rules he allegedly formulated for aspiring swindlers, offer a glimpse into his philosophy. Be a patient listener, never be a boaster, wait for the other fellow to make a move, and crucially, never tell people what you intend to do. These aren't just tips for deception, they are principles of persuasion, observation, and strategic thinking that can be applied, for better or worse, in many walks of life. Lustig's tale is more than just a historical footnote about a clever criminal. It serves as a potent reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that even the most established institutions can be exploited, and that human vulnerability to flattery and greed is a timeless constant. His story forces us to question our own biases, our own desires for easy wealth, and the ease with which we can be led astray when presented with an offer that seems too good to be true. The Eiffel Tower still stands, majestic and unwavering, a testament to Parisian engineering, but also, in a strange, historical twist, an enduring symbol of Victor Lustig's unparalleled genius for grand deception. What do you think of Victor Lustig's incredible schemes? Would you have fallen for the Eiffel Tower con? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you were as fascinated by this tale of audacious deception as we were, make sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world's most incredible heists, scams, and legendary con artists. Join our community and never miss another untold story from the annals of crime and cunning.